Welcome to the Spiritually Empowered Podcast, your virtual sanctuary for soul growth, spiritual healing, divine purpose, and conscious manifestation. Together, we'll explore mysticism and magic, Buddhist and yogic teachings for inner liberation, shamanic energy medicine, psychic development, and tools to wield your power and protect your energy during this time of global awakening. I'm Ashley Coleman, ordained shamanic minister, advanced energy medicine practitioner, spiritual teacher, and devoted student of life's deepest mysteries. I'm here to help you alchemize ancient soul wounds, reclaim your power, and rise into your sacred calling to bring healing to this world in a way that only you can. I'm so honored to be here with you. Let's dive in. Hi, beautiful soul, and welcome back to the Spiritually Empowered Podcast. I'm your host, Ashley Coleman. Thank you so much for being here today. I'd love to take a couple deep breaths with you, filling up your belly and getting empty, quieting your mind, closing a couple tabs. And today I would love to continue sharing my story. And this time I want to focus on love, self-abandonment, addiction, and how I got to where I am today, sober for a decade and in an amazing relationship with an amazing man who chooses me every single day, who holds such a high caliber of loyalty. We share the same values and standards, and it's just a dream come true. But things didn't always used to be this way. And I want to bring you back to a memory of mine. And in my previous episode, I shared on my spiritual attacks. And one of the longest nights of my life, I believe I shared in that episode, where I was sitting up against my parents' bed and watching the hallway and watching the clock, waiting for the sun to come up. And this is a similar story to that. There's a similar thread of empowerment that is born through the trials of self-abandonment, of leaving myself to find myself later. And I remember in the heat of my addiction, my drug of choice was pot. Thankfully, I say thankfully because you can't die on it. It's a real medicine for some, right? But for me, it was an addiction. And anything can be used to numb out and to escape yourself. So back in 2014, I was in a 4-year toxic relationship. And let me back up a little bit. So back to this waiting for the sun to come up. There's a really interesting metaphor there. I remember, during my spiritual attacks, the moment the sun would come up, everything would go away. I would feel completely safe again. The moment that first light entered the sky. And I remember being high in my parents' house, just really mentally unstable, and coloring in my notebook and my journal. I drew this page and it said, waiting for the sun to come up. I always knew that this life was going to be incredible. I always knew that I was going to help a lot of people. I always knew that something big was going to happen in this lifetime. And many children know when they're born, as they grow up in toddler years, a lot of children, star seeds, as some people call them, they know that they came here to do big shit. And our souls are so wise and so brave and so one with God that they will willingly walk us into trauma, willingly, especially those earlier years. If you came here to learn self-love, you might opt in to a family who disowns you. If you were born to learn forgiveness as one of your soul lessons, you will be hurt. And there's an amazing story called The Little Soul and the Sun. It's an amazing book, an amazing story about what we opt into as a spiritual being before we're incarnated. And some part of my path before I got here, maybe I said, I want to experience powerlessness so I can find my power. On earth, we experience contrast, right? Once you find your dream partner, I guarantee you went through cheating, you went through failed relationships. And if you experienced a lot of depression, happiness is about to knock at your door. Loss comes right before having. Poverty comes before wealth. In many cases, this is how it's coded. But you, as a sovereign being, have free will. You can stay in the familiar place of poverty. You can stay in the familiar place of infidelity. You can stay in the familiar place of depression. You are so free that you can stay in a familiar cage. You are so free that you can wake up to your power this instant. We are given free will. We are creators in our own right. Not God, but deeply connected to that creator. You're so powerful that you could be living in a heaven, but here you're in hell in your mind. Or you could be living in hell and find heaven in your own heart. So I have memories of growing up and saying something really big is going to happen. And I had no idea what it was, and I would cry my eyes out, especially when I went on canoe trips with my dad, because nature will tell you the truth. Nature always spoke to me, whether it was me doing handstand after handstand in the front yard and killing the grass because I did all these handstands, or whether it was me floating down the river, learning to kayak rapids with my dad at a young age. I still do that, by the way. The river speaks to you, the trees speak to you. And when I would go out into nature with my father, I would have these feelings surge through my body of the truth of this lifetime. It's gonna be big. It's gonna be big. I felt it and I would cry because I didn't know what it was yet. I didn't know what it was. I couldn't grasp it. And then I walked through pain, many years of pain. And I want to share something interesting with you when it comes to opting in to soul challenges as a way to step into the other side, right? Opting into loss as a soul, not as a human. Of course, your ego doesn't want that, right? Of course, your ego doesn't want another failed relationship, but maybe that failed relationship, you couldn't learn something anywhere else. And your soul says, hold on, baby. Hold on. I need to walk you through this because you're going to be blessed with something. How many people have you heard say, cancer saved my life? I woke up. This is earth. This is earth. And the deeper you go into one side, the further you're going to go into the other side. So if things are really hard for you, they're about to get really good. And I want you to just feel that for a minute, if you're open to it. So I remember being in high school, I was in detention. I was a little rebel, still am. I was a little rebel, and I was in detention. And I had this desire. I said, I want a partner that I can get high with. There in me sparked a desire to have a partner to get high with because I saw that and it looked really fun. It looked really cool. And I manifested just that. And you could say, was it the chicken or the egg, right? Did I know it was coming and call it in, or did I call it in? Both and, right? And so I manifested a 4-year relationship where we were total stoners together. And it was really fun at first and then crashed and burned because I had a lot of stuff I was running from. And I would write in my journal, just waiting for the sun to come up. And what does the sun represent? Life, clarity, illumination, direction, clarity. The sun illuminates the darkness and it turns the fog machine off. The sun brings clarity and truth. So that was symbolic for me, waiting for the sun to come up. So fast forward 2014, it was a full moon in Capricorn. And this was the second longest night of my life. Maybe the first. I don't know. Those two are pretty tied, that one and the one from childhood, where I was looking down the hallway and looking at the clock. And this one, let me paint you a picture. I was living with my partner at the time in his apartment. I had my amazing ferret, Luna. I loved her so much. She's passed on now. And my partner at the time, this was the 4-year relationship, was sleeping over at his friend's house and it was not good. So there was a lot of drugs involved, probably flirting, probably cheating, just this whole slew of toxic behavior. And I was back at our his apartment, but I was living there. And I remember being in the bathtub and I just felt the pain of this relationship cut me so deep in my soul that I felt like I was dying. I don't know how to put it into words, but if you're a human, I bet you can relate, where the emotional pain was so strong that it was like killing me. It wasn't necessarily that I was triggered, it was just a culmination of many years of intense pain that I hadn't faced, and I hadn't left the relationship yet. I was still in it. So I was in the bathtub, literally feeling like I was dying inside, and I said, angels out loud. Prayer inside your mind is not as strong as prayer out loud. And prayer out loud by yourself is not as strong as prayer out loud with other people, right? We get stronger together. But anyways, I said, angels, if you are there, please take this pain and lay it on the surface of my being. I am dying inside. What I had just done was invoke the law of grace. I used my voice and my free will to command healing into the moment, of which you can do any time. Angels, if you're there, please take this pain and rest it on the surface. It was cutting me so deep. And I watched that full moon in Capricorn dance across the entire sky for the entire night. And I went to bed probably right before the sun came up or shortly after. And something changed in me for the rest of my life. The spell was completely fucking broken. The attachment to that person was gone, like somebody had just cut the cord. It was like the contract was closed. That pain that I was meant to walk through was finished. It was done. And I'm not exaggerating. I never felt the same about him ever again. I finally felt like I could leave. I didn't feel like I could leave before that. I felt invisibly trapped. Nobody was holding me there. He wouldn't leave me and I wouldn't leave him. And it was just this back and forth shit show of pain and addiction and codependency. Codependency is making someone else your source when God is coded to be your source. When you put something above God, I don't care what it is, that is codependency, and you are grasping for dear life. Codependency and self-abandonment are married. Codependency is making something else your source, someone else your source. And so if they look at you and say, I'm leaving, you say, I'm dying. And this was me. He would say, I'm going to move to Miami, and I would go get sick in the bathroom. My body was so sickly attached. And these were spiritual diseases that I was walking through that affected my body, my digestion, my appetite. I mean, the whole thing. Psychosomatic illness, right? Thinking yourself sick, becoming a resident in hell in your own mind, and your body breaks down. So that was one of my soul lessons. Woohoo, right? Oh, that's a big one. And I have gone on to take that story and help hundreds of people. I have gone on to sit with rooms of people in recovery from addiction, and I have shared my story, and I have seen lights turn on, and I have hugged people, and the feeling of that is priceless. I have taken that pain and I have sat with people who are suffering, and I have lifted them and served them and ignited in them belief in their healing. And that is priceless. And that is pain to purpose. From pain to purpose. So my soul was like, I'm going to experience powerlessness, Ash, and I'm going to need you to hold on, girl, because you're going to want to end it. You're going to want to end it. You're going to want to throw in the towel. I'm going to need you to hold on because we're going to walk through some stuff. And it's some type of imbalanced on this planet, right? Look around Hollywood. I can't even say the stuff. I'm going to get censored probably if I say it. But all the dark magic rituals, underground, blah, 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 it's going to be dark here when you get to Earth. Buckle up and don't you dare give up. Don't you even ever give up. And I have a father who ingrained in me, God bless him, never give up. My soul said, hold on, you're going to get out. But first, we got to go in. We got to go in. And I got crushed. I went through the dishwasher. I went through the laundry machine. I went through the tornado. I mean, tussled, battles. So that was a very long night. And then after 4 years, I walked away and I left a lot of relationships. About a month later, I got my own apartment, one bedroom. I just graduated from yoga, 200-hour training that changed my life forever. Yoga philosophy, all day, every day. Amazing, amazing Buddhism, Hinduism. I'm an interfaith minister after all, so I can't get enough of it. I love it. World spirituality, sign me up if you know astrology. My moon's in the ninth house in Sagittarius. If you know astrology, you got to get it. You got to know that. I'm going to share all my others, well, a couple. So, Sun in Pisces, 12th house, rising Aries, and Moon in Sag, ninth house for the astrology people. Let me know your signs in the comments if you would. That'd be really fun to hear from you. So, I left. I got my one bedroom apartment. I closed the fucking door and I said, don't ever talk to me again. Because, of course, he tried to walk back. Let me come back in your life. Let me squeeze through this little hole. But I had finalized my contract with you. You might not know it, boo, but I stepped away with both feet. And I love that about myself. And I commanded that healing. I didn't wait for it. I commanded it with my voice. I invoked the law of grace. I commanded healing. I said no. A spiritual contract is broken when you speak up. When you command it to be so. You don't need to use your spirituality to abandon yourself, right? Oh, but it's just me and it's my shadow and I'm learning and let me do more self work. The most spiritual thing you can do sometimes is walk the hell away and say, this is over. My self-work is leaving. That's what that is. So I got my keys to the apartment. I shut the door and I let go of a lot of relationships. I was very lonely. I sacrificed the thing that I love the most, which is relationships, because my loyalty to myself finally was stronger than my need to stay attached to the familiar past. The loyalty to my soul finally got bigger than my attachment to the familiar. I said, fuck all of this. And I shut the door and I said, it's over. And I never looked back. The only reason I looked back was to forgive and to forget. And I made a vow. And this is an important piece here. I made a vow to myself. I will never abandon you again. I will never abandon you again. What does that mean to abandon yourself? It means to, when your body says no and from your mouth you say yes, vice versa. It means to know in your heart what your truth is, but to live differently, self-abandonment. It means to numb out, to leave yourself, right? That was the core of it for me. And I left myself with sugar after I got sober. Whatever you do to leave yourself, that's self abandonment. I decided to stop leaving myself, to stop being a ghost, to stop disassociating, to stop detaching from my feeling, from my inner child. I stopped leaving my inner child to cry in the bedroom by herself. And I sat with her and I said, I'm never leaving your side again, ever. I am never leaving your side again. And how did I learn that? By leaving myself. That's the contrast of this planet. I made a vow. I am never leaving you again. I will leave everybody else before I leave you. You are now number one. You were number 10 before. You were number 12. You're number one, and nobody's taking your spot. And guess what? When you manifest that new partner, when God gifts you that amazing partner because you stopped lowering your standard, when you receive what you want, you are going to need to hold your boundaries in the new dream. You're going to need to tell your beloved no. You're going to need to disappoint who you love the most. That's a requirement. And I used to be petrified of disappointing my partner, my previous, another one, my previous one. Terrified. I was driving, this is another one that ended, another partner. And I was driving to his house to stay the night, and I started to feel in my body that I didn't want to go. I didn't want to go. I turned the music down and I said, okay, Ash, you're number one. If you don't want to go, we're not going. It's totally fine. It's okay if you don't want to go, and it's okay if you do want to go. If you are triggered and emotionally attached to your truth being one way or the other, you're going to blur what you hear. The quickest way to blur your intuition is to be emotionally attached to what the answer is going to be. So you got to go eagle, you got to go objective, you got to take space, you got to step back and say, whatever your truth is, it's fine either way. Go neutral. That's how you train your psychic gifts. That's how you hear your intuition. Because scientifically, when you are in a high state of emotionality, your cognitive functions of reasoning and logic go offline. So, in order to perceive truth in any given moment, you got to go objective. You got to find neutral. This is why I practice meditation. This is why I'm obsessed with Buddhism, because Buddhism brings you back to neutrality. It says, okay, find the center point. So, in that moment, I learned that my truth was I don't want to go to his house. I want to go home. And I said, oh, okay. Well, now I got to break the news and potentially hurt his feelings. Fuck. That was hard for me. I didn't want to hurt his feelings. I didn't want to change my mind, right? My truth is my truth. So I called him and I said something like, love, I don't like to change plans the last minute, I'm sorry if this inconveniences you. I don't think I said sorry, but it's not my favorite thing to change plans the last minute, especially if it's an ongoing thing, right? That's not ideal. And so I said, this is hard for me, or I don't know exactly what I said, but I stood in my power and I said, I'm just feeling in my body that I want to go home. And he was like, okay, that's fine. I was like, oh, cool. Nobody blew up. Wow. Nothing terrible happened. Your no is very important because if you don't have that trust with you, you don't have it with anybody. And would you want your partner to be there if they didn't want to? Probably not. Probably not. So I went home and I rested knowing that I followed my truth. And this is about my whole life story is owning my power. And you know what my partner today says about me? He says, Ashley, my favorite thing about you is that you don't bend. So not only have I gone on to serve many clients with this, not only have I helped hundreds of people re-own their power, not only, this is the biggest one, have I gotten right with my soul, but you mean to tell me the man of my dreams says this is his favorite quality about me? That I tell him no sometimes? That I don't bend? Talk about a reward. Talk about a win-win. It's not always comfortable to speak a desire. Hey, sweetie, I love when you buy me a steak on my moon, or I love when you say it. Say it. I find it really fun to speak desire as a woman from an embodied place, not from criticism, but from, hey, love, I love when you do this, and here's why. I love when you open the door for me. It makes me feel so special. So there's your tip, right? With that, it's how does it make you feel and why? Why do you want them to do that, right? And so I could go into a whole thing on tips around voicing your desires, and it to this day can still be uncomfortable for me, but I have skin in the game. For years I've been doing this, not perfectly, but that vow has stayed. And it's the foundation I stand on. It's the root of my life, of my business, and it's what I'm here to teach. So if you are someone who has done gaslighting yourself, it's not all about you doing your self work. It's not all about you doing your spiritual practices. It's actually about how you say no, how you say yes, how you hold the line in your life. The fastest way to change is to raise your standard, is to raise your standard. This is my new standard. And then if you want to keep the change and not just have a New Year's situation of excitement and motivation that ends after the first month, you've got to stick with it every single day, every single day. How do you feel inside? How can I love you today? Where am I off track? What can I do to love you? You are number one. If you don't have you, you ain't got nothing because you, in you somewhere is God, is your connection. So your connection to self is your connection to God, is your connection to what you love the most. This is relationships. And I trained myself, it's okay to disappoint who you love the most. One of my previous best friends said something one time on the couch and I looked at her and I shook my head. I say, "No, I'm not agreeing with that actually." Because if you agree, this is important because it happens in small moments. If you agree with something that you inside do not agree with, you've just lost touch with yourself. You can get it back, but now you know. If you agree, haha, yeah, yeah, yeah. If you agree to something that you don't agree to, you've just abandoned in a small way. And that builds over time, right? And it chips away at your relationship to yourself. And the cost is really, really high of that. So I challenge you next time you want to agree with somebody for the sake of being loved or pleasing people or being loved is really what it is. I feel that it comes down to belonging comes from wanting to love, wanting to survive, right? But we're not children anymore. So your belonging is not as much about survival as it was when you were a child. You are safe to say no. You are safe to disagree. You are safe to keep things to yourself if you want to. You don't have to tell everybody everything. So, what is it like? I challenge you. If you're a no, say it. If you're a yes, say it. If you're a I don't know, I'll check in later, say it because there's gray area. Maybe it's not right now, but later. Maybe it's yes now and not later, right? We have what I like to call the evolving truth, which is what's true for you now might not be true for you tomorrow. You don't want to make love now, but you do want to make love tomorrow, right? The evolving truth, what's alive. And knowing your evolving truth requires self-connection. And you can't do that if you're abandoning. You can't do that if you're constantly distracted. You can't do that if you're not spending a couple moments every day with yourself. How can I love you? How can I love you? I was sitting outside of the Target parking lot a couple years ago and I started to feel sad. I was about to walk inside and I felt sad. And what I didn't do was just get out of the car and walk in and say, ah, fuck it, who cares? I turned my car off. I rolled back my seat. I laid down and I put a hand on my heart and I said, I'm totally here with you. You're number one. This is not just fancy talk. I walk this. I walk this in moments where no one's looking. If you feel what I'm saying today, it's because when no one's looking, I live true to this. And I laid back my seat and I said, I'm right here with you. It's okay that you feel this way. How can I love you? So it's acceptance and the willingness to feel, coupled with what can I do to support you? Do you want to go home? Do you need some water? And my inner being, because she speaks to me, said something I think like, don't try to analyze it. I just want you to hold me for a little bit. Let me cry. I just want to feel. Don't try and figure me out. Just be with me. And so I sat there in that space. Okay, yes. Do you want to go inside now? No. Okay. And I completed the wave and I went inside with beaming love because I put myself first. And so this is the medicine of sovereignty, of owning yourself, of taking responsibility for your truth. And I have something amazing coming up, my signature program on sovereignty, specifically for women who have bended in the past and who maybe are at a place of wanting a relationship, wanting more, but you want to walk into more certain in your authority and in your boundaries so that once you get more, you don't fumble the ball. Once you get that partner, you don't fumble it by pleasing and not owning your worth and your power. So if that's you, then go have a look at the description. Click the link. I have a wait list. There's only going to be 10 spots. It's going to be a small group over 10 weeks. It's going to be absolutely legendary, and you will walk away from this in full ownership of your integrity. So that is the result of this course. It's not just transform your life. No, it's own your integrity for the rest of your life. This is an initiation for those ready to receive their heart's desires and not fumble it by bending on what you know to be true. So we're going to dive into all layers of that. The link is in the show notes. My love, thank you so much for receiving this today. Let me know your signs below, your sun, moon, rising, if you're open to share, if you know them. And it's such a joy to be in this community with you. And I look forward to being with you in the next episode. Bye for now. Thank you so much for tuning in today. If you loved this episode, share it with somebody who you really feel would benefit from this message. I'm sending you lots of love, and I'll see you in the next episode.